Okay. I'd like to call this council meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. and I'd like to call on Councillor Longo to read the land acknowledgement.
The city of Thorold is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in a rich history of the First Nations, such as the Adirondack, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The city of Thorold stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship on the lands of which we live.
Thank you, Councillor Longo. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Adoption of the agenda. Can I get a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? I got Councillor Decker and Councillor D'Angela. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Adoption of the minutes. Committee minutes from Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. The open and closed minutes of the council meeting held on Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. Can I get a mover and a seconder? Councillor Sentence and Councillor Decker. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Mayor's remarks. On June 18th, CAO Manoj Dalwaria and I attended the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce Spotlight Series event at the Holiday Inn and Suites in St. Catharines. The Honorable Rob Flack, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, was the keynote speaker, which was followed by a question and answer period. I had the opportunity to speak with him at the end of the event and discuss building faster funding. Also on June 18th, I attended the 2025 Niagara Business Achievement Awards hosted by the Greater Niagara Chamber of Commerce, also at the Holiday Inn and Suites, St. Catharines Conference Center. Ian Hamilton, President and CEO of Hope Ports, received the Innovative Leaders Award. He is a very deserving award winner and a true visionary. His work regarding the Thorold Multimodal Hub is an excellent example of that. The Excellent in Business Not-for-Profit Award winner was the Thorold Community Activities Group. Again, a very deserving award winner and our community partner. Megan Gilchrist, their executive director, accepted the award on behalf of the TCAG. On June 19th, I attended the Alternative Education graduation ceremony, which includes the Pope Francis Center. This ceremony was held in the Sean O'Sullivan Theatre at Brock University. It is always a heartwarming event. On June 21st, I was joined by Councillors O'Hara, Sentence, D'Angela, and Regional Councillor Whalen at the official reopening and ribbon-cutting ceremony of Beaver Dam's Church, 1832. Thank you goes out to the Friends of Beaver Dam Church as they celebrated a community of people who work to restore this heritage building and preserve a piece of history. We also presented David Cowan, President of the Friends of Beaver Dam's Church, with the Ontario Senior of the Year Award for the City of Thorold. When he accepted, he said he shares the award with all the Friends of Beaver Dam's Church. David joins Thorold Senior, 50-plus Senior of the Year, Brenda Bader, and City of Thorold Senior of the Year, Leslie Daniels. All three are very deserving award winners who constantly give back to their community and are great ambassadors for the City of Thorold. Also on June 21st, I was joined by Councillor O'Hara at the annual Rose and Flower Show, hosted by the Thorold Garden Club at Club Belvedere. I selected the Mayor's Choice Award, which will be presented at their event on September 20th at Club Capri. On June 24th, thank you, Councillor Decker, for representing City Council at the Dennis Morris Catholic High School graduation ceremony held at the Central Niagara Community Center in Niagara-on-the-Lake. On June 26th, thank you, Councillor Didavitas, for representing the City Council at the Thorold Secondary School graduation ceremony held at the Performing Arts Center in downtown St. Catharines. This year's City of Thorold graduation awards presented by Councillor Didavitas were the Council Recognition Award, Sarah Robichaud, and the Mayor's Award, Beatrice Gonclaves Miranda. On June 25th, I was joined by Fire Chief Terry Dixon, Deputy Fire Chief Mike DeGasperis, Captain of Training Joel Veltman, and other Thorold Fire and Emergency Services staff at the Volunteer Recruitment Graduation Ceremony held at Station 2 in Thorold South. I presented the graduates with certificates on behalf of City Council. Congratulations to the 18 graduate volunteer firefighters. Thank you for your commitment and dedication to our community. On June 26th, I attended Venture Niagara's 40th anniversary event held at the Hare Winery in Niagara-on-the-Lake. I was joined by MPs Fred Davies and Tony Baldinelli, as well as Regional Chair Jim Bradley. I brought greetings on behalf of City Council and presented Frank Rupsik, manager of Venture Niagara, with a certificate in recognition of their 40th anniversary. Venture Niagara Communities Futures Development Corporation is located at 20 Pine Street North, Thorold, in the Welland Mills Heritage Building. Established in 1985, Venture Niagara supports the local economy by investing in businesses and community economic development projects. On June 5th, I was joined by Councillor Sentence, O'Hare, DeRose, Decker, Regional Councillor Whalen, and Downtown BIA Chair Serge Carpino at the JC Patisserie Gelato Grand Opening and ribbon cutting. Congratulations to Juan and Zara on the grand opening of your new gelato shop, a great addition to the very popular JC Patisserie. Wishing you great success in the new addition to your very successful existing business. The Thorold Community Market and BIA Car Show has a special show tomorrow evening featuring the Lee Wiles Country Bangers from 5 to 7 p.m., followed by the Thorold Reed Band at 7:30 p.m. This all takes place in the Battle of Beaver Dams Park. This is a free event. Non-perishable food items will be collected supporting community care. Bins will be located at the City of Thorold booth. Please support this great initiative. The Super Soccer School returns for its 36th year anniversary. It runs on Monday, June 14th through Wednesday, June 16th at CE Gross Park. It is the longest running sports camp in the City of Thorold. Contact Carmen DeRose for more information regarding this soccer camp. The community-wide food drive is back Saturday, July 12th. If you're interested in hosting a bin to collect non-perishable food items in your neighborhood, contact Maxine at Community Care Thorold for a bin. In closing, our 3-day Canada Day celebration was a major success. Music in the Park on Sunday, June 29th, hosted by the Niagara Jazz Festival, and we thank Juliette Dunn and her amazing team, and our 2 days, Rock and Blues on the Battlefield on June 30th, followed by Canada Day, July 1st. This year's celebration was especially meaningful as we marked major milestones. Our 50th anniversary as a city, 150th anniversary as a town, and 175th anniversary as a village. Throughout our 2-day event, attendees in the thousands enjoyed a wide variety of family-friendly activities, live music, food and beverage options that helped bring our community together in celebration. It truly was heartwarming. A heartfelt thank you to all our incredible sponsors and residents for your continued support. A special thank you to City Council, staff, especially our Public Works and Community Services team, Thorold Fire and Emergency Services, Thorold Bylaw, our Special Events Working Group, which is Jacob Tedesco, Natalie Stickles, Councillor Decker, Councillor O'Hare, and Councillor Didavitas, as well as Tessa Bonacore and Carrie Gruel. And again, our generous sponsors who make events like this possible. The City of Thorold once again showed why it is the best place to live, work, and raise a family, and we look forward to next year. And that's the end of my mayor's remarks. Presentations. I'd like to call on Joey Hewitt, member of the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, for the presentation regarding Accessibility Award. And Joey, you have 10 minutes to speak, up to 10 minutes, and then there'll be any questions from council.
Good evening. I won't take 10 minutes, Mayor. My name's Joey Hewitt. I'm with the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee. We have what we call the Accessibility Matters Here Recognition Award. It's designed to recognize the efforts of organizations within the JAC municipalities who promote accessibility and demonstrate implementation of, can't read my own writing, of the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities standards. The JAC, Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, supports 7 communities within Niagara: West Lincoln, Lincoln, Grimsby, Pelham, Thorold, Niagara-on-the-Lake, and Port Colborne. On behalf of the JAC, I'm pleased to present this Accessibility Matters Here certificate to the City of Thorold on behalf of the JAC. It's in recognition of your contributions. The improvements the city has made within our community reflects a genuine dedication to ensuring that individuals of all abilities can access your services and spaces with dignity and ease. Thank you for playing a meaningful role in advancing accessibility in Ontario. And I also have a window decal, which we hope you'll put on the front doors of City Hall.
I really appreciate the work you did. I just want to mention that I had the pleasure of working with Joey when we started our age-friendly committee, and you were an active in that as well as the Joint Accessible.
Still am.
And you still are. And she's been a great champion, and we were seeing results from that work. So I want to thank you on behalf of City Council and staff and our community.
Well, we just really appreciate the cooperation the city gives us, too, in advancing the accessibility issues.
Thank you so much, Joey.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Let's get that call.
Yep.
Done. Okay, next up, we have delegations. Before we get to our delegations, I'll remind those delegating that the subject matter of the delegation must directly relate to the item on the agenda. Delegations are not to address extraneous matters that are not included in the agenda item. Any discourse between councillors and the delegate will be limited to councillors asking questions for clarification and obtaining additional relevant information only. That being said, I'd like to welcome Stephen Seuss, member of the public, for the motion respecting addiction, mental health, and homelessness. And we have 2 delegates, and then we'll put the motion on the floor after that. So welcome, Stephen.
Mayor Ugolini, it's great to see you again. So today I'm going to be presenting on mental health, homelessness, and addiction. I'm proud to stand as City of Thorold's advocate for these issues, and I'm glad to see many friends around the table who I haven't seen for a long time, and of course Deputy Clerk Babanko, who's an old friend of mine from Welland.
Yeah.
I'm joined here by Tyler Robillard, Nick Lines, and the very tenacious Joyce Morocco, who's the Chair of Public Health and Social Services for Niagara Region. So I would like to start tonight by going through Thorold's motion that I authored and that Councillor DeRose will be moving and presenting. I would like to propose waiving the rules of procedure for a 2/3 majority so that we can deal with the motion tonight, as these issues are critical and people are dying and they don't have time to wait. The first thing I'm going to ask is to establish a...
Excuse me, Steve, we don't have to waive any motions because the motion was done in proper course, so it's we don't have to waive any policy.
That's wonderful news, Mayor Ugolini. The motion was originally introduced in the city of Welland, and Welland chose to turn their back on vulnerable people and vote against it by one mere vote, with the swing vote being Mayor Campion. I took the issue to the press, and the residents responded positively and with love for the committee and for my causes. The committee will amplify the voices of people with lived experience on mental health, homelessness, and addiction. I can't tell you the traumas and the demons that I have suffered in my life. I have been suffocated when I was young. I've been assaulted. I've been demeaned based on my Indigenous background, being a person with a disability. It's a hard upbringing, but I choose to fight, and I choose to walk the path of sobriety and recovery. Another thing that we're going to ask tonight is to introduce a motion so that we can ask the provincial government to allocate more healthcare funding, particularly for inpatient addiction treatment, and I would like Indigenous healing addiction treatment to be considered as well. We're also going to ask that security guards be recognized as first responders, as they're the ones who are ever-growingly dealing with the issues of mental health, homelessness, and addiction on behalf of municipalities. Now, one of the big things that we need to do is we need to update mental health and addictions laws at the province because they're outdated. They're from 1990. So the Emergency Civil Protection Act is one of the legislation that I would like reviewed, because the nature of emergencies has changed, and there's no mention of social services emergencies such as mental health, homelessness, addiction, food insecurity, and things like that. The other one is the Mental Health Act, because addictions is not included in that. So you cannot form somebody with the justice of the peace based on severe addiction. Would we rather them lose their lives? I think not. Another area where I want to focus and zero in on is one that does not get a lot of attention, and that's Indigenous reconciliation. As many of you know, I'm a proud Métis person representing the legacy of the Millette family. So the first thing I would like to do is introduce a memorandum of understanding in Welland between the Indigenous community and the city, enshrined in a new bylaw that respects the duty to consult the Indigenous population. I would also like to tackle the Indian Act, which refers to Indigenous people like myself as mentally defective. I've asked the federal government to create a new category of employment insurance for the families of missing and murdered loved ones, and particularly for women. I fought with Ontario Health for an Indigenous mobile mental health crisis unit to respond to mental wellness and calls within the Indigenous community. Once again, referencing the Indigenous Indigenous Treatment Center for Healing. That's another big area. I actually had the idea to convert the chains of office for the mayor of Welland into a turtle, because Mother Earth was born on the turtle's back. So that would be very interesting. I'm proud of the push for preventative drug education in the city of Thorold, and I'm disappointed that the DSBN, District School Board in Niagara, has not responded yet. We have to follow up on that, and we certainly have to follow up on the motion we did to have the CMHA set up a safe beds program for City of Thorold. That's important. We can't let that go. Another one is mandatory Indigenous education in the Ontario curriculum. So, together, we can give City of Thorold, City of Welland, and Niagara region the fresh start that they deserve. We can work in collaboration through partnerships with the school board and agencies to ensure that people have access to services. You all know a little bit of my testimony. I spent 8 months in Brentwood Recovery Home. I was severely addicted, and I was on the verge of death. I had no housing, and I was dealing with severe mental illness. The Niagara Health System, in fact, even kicked me out of the hospital and left me to wait in front of Start Me Up Niagara, and nobody ever came. Nassau came and said there's nothing they can do. Another time I called Nassau, I'm homeless, and they didn't even respond. This is not how we treat our most vulnerable residents, because we are only as strong as our most vulnerable resident. We need to really fight for them, and we need to address the growing fact that people are overdosing on our streets. It's a very unsafe environment, and that's why I'm satisfied to hear that the city of Thorold is considering implementing a community watch program, which I have already spoken with the Niagara Regional Police Chief Bill Forty about, and he's in support because these programs exist in York region and Durham region. So there's really no excuse for not implementing crime prevention and crime prevention by environmental design. I was happy that the city of Thorold, within 24 hours, you got a great I don't know where communications is, probably right here. You got a great communications team. They had the resources posted within 24 hours. That's super impressive. People deserve to have a life where they're happy, fulfilled, well, and integrated and included in their community. People with disabilities especially, who are being also left out on the street, sleeping in office spaces. I fought for more residential support for those individuals. When it comes to policing, there are systematic barriers in terms of racism and discrimination within the service. As somebody who was assaulted by the NRP with 5 times, I can attest to this.
You need to stick to the motion, please.
This is regard to mental health,
No,
homelessness,
but
and addiction.
not about the comments regarding the NRPS.
That's fine. I said it anyway. So together we'll build this we'll build a future full of bright horizons for people. I want to thank the work of Councillor Carmen DeRose, Councillor Sentence. This whole council has been nothing but supportive. Councillor DeRose has moved more motions on the state of emergency than any councillor in the region. The only limit to the state of emergency is the imagination, and the imagination has no limits, Mr. Mayor. With that being said, Mr. Mayor, I'm open to taking any questions, and as always, I appreciate your indulgence and the fact that you are willing to let me exercise my free speech at Thorold City Council.
Thank you very much, and I'll open the floor. Are there any questions for Stephen? Go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, more comments than questions, but
Questions only, please.
okay. I have a question about the security guard one, and maybe that's for Tyler later. But what is the protections that they're looking for? I don't know the code. I don't know what this means.
That's a great question through the chair, Councillor. The protections that they're looking for would be enshrined in the criminal code, and they would be related to assault. There's an ever-growing number of security guards who are being assaulted by responding to these calls. So we want to address that to keep everybody safe and secure within the community. And it's all about building collaborative and positive relationships with people. And if our security guards can help us with that, that's an endeavor that I will support every time.
Thank you. One more question. And Stephen, when we've talked on the phone, are you still going to the other municipalities because we're stronger in numbers, right? And I believe Thorold does a lot, and you're still going out there to try and get them, I assume, right?
Absolutely, Councillor. Through the chair, I've just presented to Niagara Regional Council. We've asked for more funding for the issues of mental health and addiction, and because of Joyce Morocco, we have asked the provincial government to establish mental health and addiction centers of excellence. They need to be brought back. I have a 3-pronged push with Sam Osterhoff, the MPP of Niagara West. He's coordinating with the Provincial Emergency Operations Center and the Emergency Management Ministry on 3 items. Bring emergency mental health care back to the Welland Hospital, which Thorold residents access. Extend youth mental health walk-in hours at the Seaway Mall walk-in clinic. Youth mental health is essential because we want to set up that prevention. If we have prevention, people might not touch the drugs for the first time. That's what I would recommend. I wish I would have never done that. And the third one, once again, is establishing addiction inpatient treatment. This is crucial I would love it if there was an inpatient addiction treatment center in Thorold. I think Thorold is a great place to recover, and I think the mayor is correct in saying that Thorold is a great place to live, work, and play.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, Stephen, I want to thank you for coming to council, and I want to thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And now I'd like to call on Tyler Robillard, member of the public, for his delegation on the motion respecting addiction, mental health, and homelessness, and remind you that you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor Ugolini, councilors, and staff. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight in strong support of this motion. I stand here not only as a security professional, but as someone who has seen, both personally and professionally, the urgent need for action on mental health, addictions, homelessness in our community. Over the years, I've worked in nearly every role within the security industry, from static guard to patrol supervisor to law prevention specialist. I've been on the front lines of this crisis. I've seen how it's changed not only just in Niagara, but everywhere. I've been the first person on a scene to overdose calls. I sat on pavement with people in the middle of a mental health breakdowns waiting for paramedics and police who were tied up elsewhere. I've stood between distraught addicts swinging a weapon and terrified bystanders, knowing I had little more than my voice, my training, and a hope that help would come fast enough. But this crisis just doesn't exist on my job site. It's personal too. A few years ago, I went through my own struggles with mental health. I know what it feels like to be trapped in your own mind and know how difficult it is to reach out for help when the system is already overwhelmed. And it's because of that experience, I firmly believe that lived experience needs to be at the table, not just as a token gesture, but as a driving force in shaping solutions. When people who have walked that hard road speak, we need to listen. That's why this motion matters. First, it asks for a dedicated regional committee that includes voices from those who have actually lived through addiction, homelessness, and mental health challenges. These aren't theoretical experts. They're people who know the system's cracks because they've fallen through them. And I believe their insight could save lives. Second, it calls for the province to review the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. Our current emergency framework wasn't built to handle the kind of slow-moving, long-lasting emergency we face with mental health, addiction, and homelessness. Updating it would give cities like Thorold more tools to respond and the ability to declare targeted emergencies to unlock resources faster. It also rightly calls for increased healthcare funding, especially for inpatient addiction treatment, and to amend the Mental Health Act to explicitly include addictions. Right now, we've created a legal medical gap where addiction often isn't treated with the same urgency or seriousness as other mental health conditions. That has to change. Finally, and this is something I feel very strongly about, the motion calls for the Criminal Code amendment to recognize private security professionals as first responders under Section 270.02, giving them the same legal protections against assault that police, firefighters, and paramedics already have. I can't count the number of times I've been assaulted on the job. I've been punched, kicked, threatened with knives, spat on. Once, while dealing with an overdose call, I was attacked by a bystander trying to stop me from giving aid. What many people don't realize is that security professionals are often the first and sometimes only line of defense in these situations. We respond to overdoses, mental health calls, trespassing, and violence every day. But right now, we have no additional legal protection under federal law. That sends a message that our lives and safety matter less. Recognizing security professionals as first responders wouldn't give us police powers. It would simply acknowledge the reality of our role and discourage assaults against us. It would also help to retain skilled security professionals, elevate training and certification standards, build stronger partnerships with police, EMS, and community agencies, ultimately improve safety for everyone. Looking ahead, this amendment would reshape the security industry into a respected professional sector that works hand in hand with first responders, especially in mental health and addiction-related calls. We could see specialized trained security professionals embedded in community programs, equipped to de-escalate crisis, stabilize overdose scenes, and support outreach teams. This is where the future of community safety is heading, where public and private sectors collaborate, where security becomes part of the solution, and where people aren't left waiting for help that may never arrive. I've seen what's at stake. I've had people thank me with tears for just being there when nobody else would show up. I've also had coworkers leave the industry because they were burnt out, injured, or too afraid to continue. Passing this motion is not about politics. It's about fairness, safety, and dignity, both for those suffering in the streets and for those trying to help them. Thorold has the chance to lead, not just in Niagara, but across Ontario. By saying clearly we're not ignoring this crisis anymore, I respectfully ask that you pass this motion unanimously and stand with those on the front lines, both in uniform and in recovery. Thank you for your time, consideration, and leadership. You all do a tremendous job. Let no one take that away from you ever. I'll be open to any questions or concerns or comments.
Thank you for your presentation, Tyler. And are there any questions, Council? Okay, seeing none, Tyler, thank you for coming to Council and thank you for your presentation. Now, as mentioned earlier, we'll do the motion respecting addiction, mental health, and homelessness, and I'll call on Councillor DeRose for his motion respecting addiction, mental health, and homelessness. And Councillor DeRose, do you have a seconder for your motion? Councillor Sentence. Okay, the floor is yours, Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And thank you to the presenters. The Thorold City Council requests the following from the Regional Municipality of Niagara: the establishment of a new committee to better address the declared state of emergency on mental health and addiction, and that this committee seeks applications from individuals with lived experiences. A request be made to the Provincial Government of Ontario for a review of the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act to better address mental health, addiction, and homelessness emergencies. Number 2, that Thorold City Council requests the following from the Provincial Government of Ontario: increased healthcare funding, including for inpatient addiction treatment, amendment of the Mental Health Act to include addictions. Number 3, that Thorold City Council requests the following from the Federal Government of Canada: amendment of the Criminal Code to identify private security guards as first responders and provide them with the same criminal code protection as other first responders outlined in Section 270.02. And 4, the Thorold City Council directs that this resolution be circulated to the following with a request for a response: all Niagara area MPPs, all Niagara area MPs, all Niagara area municipalities, Niagara Region Public Health, Provincial Director of the Provincial Emergency Operations Center, Provincial Ministry of Emergency Preparedness and Response, Provincial Ministry of Health, Federal Minister of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, Federal Minister of Health, and the Senate of Canada. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And now all Niagara area municipalities, do you want to put including the Niagara region? Would you?
Yes, that's a great idea, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
yes.
Can you amend that to, that's a friendly amendment, correct? All Niagara area municipalities, including the Niagara region.
Mayor, is it possible to add one more friendly amendment?
Well, it's your
Okay,
motion.
well,
I'll tell you.
I know it's kind of late in the game, but just something that I've been concerned about, and I just didn't get it into this motion, but just that Thorold asked Niagara Detox to transition communal rooms to private rooms to promote and support more human dignity for clients.
I think that would be a separate item.
Would that be so? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can bring that up later.
I'll
as a
make a
separate
notice
motion.
of motion for next meeting. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so that's the motion on the floor, and the only amendment is that all Niagara area municipalities, including the Niagara region. Is there any discussion on that? Yes, you can.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the forming of the committee through the region. Will the region be responsible for ensuring that qualified persons will be on the committee that know how to deal with mental health issues? Part 1, and 2, or will it only be people with lived experiences on this committee? Like, what type of committee are we asking them to form?
Yeah, one with professionals that they would recommend, staff, of course, and people with lived experience. So kind of a broad sweep across the spectrum.
And the Public Health Standing Committee would know how to deal with that. Okay. Okay, anything else? We had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed, and that was unanimous. Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor DeRose, for your motion. Now I'm going to move on to 10.2, Agenda Item 12.3, DS 16, 2025, 75 Ormond Street South, Proposed Official Plan Amendment and Zoning Bylaw Amendment, D1412, 2023, and D0904, 2023. And again, we have a presenter, and then after the presenter, we'll bring the report forward. So Dana Edwards, Q9 Planning and Design, and is she online? You're online? Okay, welcome, Dana, and the floor is yours. You have up to 10 minutes.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me and see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Ugolini and members of council. My name is Dana Edwards, and I'm a registered professional planner and urban designer with Q9 Planning and Design. Tonight, I'm presenting to you the significant revisions that we've made for the 75 Ormond Street project in direct response to the feedback and direction we received from council. These changes reflect our commitment to working collaboratively with the city and the community to deliver a thoughtful, context-sensitive proposal. This evening, I'll be walking you through the updated design as well as the rationale behind the revisions. I'm also joined by members of our consulting team who will be here to support the presentation and help answer any technical or design-related questions you may have. So just to go through the site and the location, the subject site has frontage on Richmond Road, Ormond Street, and Linden Street. It's north of Highway 58, about 300 meters west of the Welland Canal, and 300 meters south of the downtown. The site's located on a transit route and is directly served by bike lanes that run along Ormond Street South. On February 27, 2024 and September 10, 2024, we brought the project in front of council and members of the public and heard feedback. The main concerns that we heard was that the building was too tall, had too many units, and not enough parking for residential uses. There was also an expressed desire to maintain affordability and provide some commercial units. Since those meetings, we've gone back to the drawing board and we've made some adjustments to the proposal to address some of the concerns that we heard. With respect to the updated proposal, here's how we've addressed the feedback. The proposal was modified to reduce both the height as well as the density. The building has been reduced in height from 15 stories to 10 stories, and the unit count has been reduced from 275 units to 241 units. The density was therefore reduced from 400 units per hectare to 352 units per hectare. With respect to affordability, we have provided a mix of units from small one-bedroom units all the way to larger three-bedroom units to address a variety of price points. At this point, we're still targeting an affordable alternative to the single detached dwelling. We also heard that parking was a concern. With the reduction of units through the removal of the tower, we can now provide 1.2 parking spaces per unit. The proposal provides 5 parking spaces for the newly introduced commercial spaces, which would comply with the provisions on the bylaw. The proposal will also include 2 units on the ground floor for commercial space, and this space is situated on the southwest corner of the development. No further changes to the site plan at the ground level have been made. So here are some renderings of the updated proposal showing the building from the street frontages along Richmond Ormond, as well as the proposed commercial at the base. You will notice that the building is now 10 stories and the tower, which was building B, has been since removed. Just to go over the policy context, the site's designated built-up area in the Region of Niagara official plan and is designated urban living area special policy 5 in the City of Thorold official plan. The current zoning is residential 4th density zone with a site-specific regulation 6 in the City of Thorold comprehensive bylaw, and this zone currently permits an apartment building as a use. So here is the revised site plan. You will see that no site design changes have been proposed since the previous version. You will also see that we've removed the 15-story tower portion at the north end of the property, and the building is now 10 stories in height. We've retained all of the great principles of urban design that appeared in the original proposal. The building is placed along the street. It's set back from the low-rise development to the west along Cleveland. It provides retail at grade, parking behind the building, and a mixture of both outdoor and indoor amenity for the building users. So what are we requesting in terms of the official plan and zoning bylaw? We're asking for a site-specific official plan and zoning bylaw amendment that is very specific to the proposal presented tonight. So any large-scale changes to the development will require us to bring this proposal back before council. The official plan amendment is asking to permit a residential density of 352 units per hectare. The zoning will permit slightly reduced front and rear yard setbacks, side and front yard setbacks, a maximum height of 10 stories, a parking rate of 1.2 spaces for residential units, with an additional 5 spaces for commercial, slightly reduced parking stall sizes, and a variety of commercial uses that will permit a variety of uses on the ground floor. In addition to this, we're asking for a Class 4 noise designation to allow this residential infill and redevelopment in proximity to an existing industry, while still protecting the residents from undue noise and also protecting the industry from putting their environmental compliance at risk. And lastly, we're requesting a reduction in speed limit along the frontage of Richmond and Ormond from 50 kilometers an hour, which it presently is, to 40 kilometers an hour. As well as a 4-way stop at the intersection of Richmond and Ormond Street at the proposed entrance of the development. As part of the zone amendment, a requested holding provision will apply to the property, which will be removed upon the completion of updated servicing drawings that address the interface with the regional servicing easement that's on the site, as well as updates to the land use compatibility study to address air quality and noise assessment comments from the region of Niagara's staff. So in summary, I want to highlight some of the important changes that we've made to address council's concern. As I noted, the unit count has been reduced from 275 to 241, which is an 11.7% decrease. The gross floor area was reduced, so there's a 9% reduction in gross floor area. The height was reduced, so previously it was a 15-story tower that was completely removed. An additional floor was added to the podium instead. This significantly shifts the perceived massing downwards and creates a more human scale, cohesive low to mid-rise profile. The lower 4 floors are expressed in brick, which detail a human scale, and the upper levels use contrasting materials to break down the building mass. We maintain that height is focused along Ormond Street with ample setbacks and stepbacks, and the shadow study that we provided to city staff confirms there's no negative impact on the surrounding properties. The building supports walkability with a safe, green, and attractive frontage. We have a transparent ground floor that allows a clear visual connection from the front to the rear of the building, enhancing openness and safety. And the design responds well to the surrounding context, including materials and scale that are compatible with the local context. The proposal also follows local accessibility standards. There are 3 bus stops and bike lanes within close proximity to the subject site. The parking is now more consistent with the bylaw requirement and is similar to rates that are required for surrounding municipalities. It remains efficient and well distributed in terms of surface and underground parking. From a sustainability and community impact perspective, we're offering a green roof, soft landscaping, and semi-permeable pavement in the surface in the inner circle entrance. This rear entrance is amenity space at grade, and it acts as a community hub, creating a safe social space for children and families. And more broadly, this project will contribute meaningfully to the revitalization and the long-term economic impact of the city of Thorold. So tonight, we're asking council to approve the OPA and ZBA for 75 Ormond. We believe this development should be supported by council as it will help address the growing demand for housing in the community, particularly in and around the downtown core. By introducing new residential units in a walkable location, the project supports the continued revitalization and economic resilience of the downtown. It encourages more people to live close to where they work, to shop, and to access amenities, including less reliance on cars and promoting a more sustainable urban form. Furthermore, the development makes efficient use of existing municipal infrastructure and services, representing a fiscally responsible approach to growth that aligns with the municipality's planning and objectives for a long-term vision for a vibrant, compact, and complete community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana, and I'll open the floor for questions to the presenter. Are there any questions from council? Go ahead, Councillor Delegations.
Sir. Thank you, Dana, for the presentation. It looks fabulous. On the commercial aspect, would you entertain having this one spot downstairs instead of, or are you going to chop it up into 3 spots?
Through the chair, the proposal right now is to have 2 units converted into 2 commercial spaces. It could possibly be, depending on the use, it could be flex. So it could be that a larger use may require both spaces, so 1 commercial unit. It's approximately 105 square meters of commercial. If they were much smaller uses, it could possibly be divided down into 3. But I feel like our team felt that providing that commercial space would allow for a more mixed-use, vibrant development. It's possible too that if there was not support for the commercial units, we could return to council and request they be converted back to residential.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to the presenter. Just a couple quick questions here. Will this building be an apartment building or a condominium? I'm not sure if that was stated anywhere.
Through the chair, at this time, the proposal is for a condominium building. However, the tenure won't be encoded within the zoning and may change depending on market conditions.
Okay. And my other question is, if council approves these amendments, when would, well, I guess my first question is, would the company asking for the amendments be the one who actually would construct this building?
Through the chair, I can't speak to that aspect. I do know that following the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment, there are a few more application steps. There has to be a site plan approval that has to be granted, which kind of irons out the smaller, more detailed parts of the study. We do need to return to council to lift the holding. So there's a couple more studies, the air quality assessment, as well as further details of the development adjacent to the easement. So once those are complete, then the applicant would move on to building permit. It is the intention that the applicant or that my client does want to build on the site. Following approvals, we will be moving towards CIP funding for the contamination relief and related to the cleanup of the site.
Okay. And assuming all the approvals are made, when could we anticipate construction to begin?
Through the chair, it's hard to say. Like, the site does need to be remediated, so that would proceed following site plan approval and following the lift of the holding removal. So there is a little bit more work to go, but likely summer of 2027.
Okay, so 2 years from now. And you mentioned the contaminants on the property that would have to be looked at. There's also, I guess, could be some structural issues with a former canal running through there. Has that been looked at? Do you know if you can build, or that's something you'll determine later?
Through the chair, a detailed geotechnical analysis has been completed. So from a structural perspective, the building can be developed. Further work will be done as part of the holding with the relationship to the underground services and the building. So making sure that the easement, the regional easement that runs through the property is undisturbed by the building. So once those details are sorted out through detail engineering, we will return to council for the removal of the holding that will allow us to move forward. So in summary, yes, the structure can be built. It's just finer details around the interface of the building with the region easement will be dealt with at the site plan control stage.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Councilor DeRose, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Just a quick question, a couple questions. Just a rough ballpark, I know you can't give an exact figure at this point. Just how much would one of the single units run? I know you're not going to be, it'd have to be an estimation, but if you can just give me a ballpark figure.
Sure. So as of last year, which I know is somewhat dated in terms of projections, the range that they were looking at was low 400s to high 600s. So low 400s would be for the 1 bedroom, and then high 600s would be for the 3. I think that was for the 4 bedrooms. So right now we're looking at 1 to 3 bedroom units. So that was last year's price, or that was last year's target. So it's possible that that will change depending on where the market goes by the time the building is constructed.
Okay, thank you, Dana. As well, can you explain what a shadow study is in the neighborhood?
Through the chair, yes. So the building was modeled in a program called SketchUp, and then it was looked at seasonally. So it's spring, fall, winter, and summer, and it showed kind of where the shadows fall through the different seasons. The way the shadows fall is mainly along the Ormond Street frontage, so away from the low-rise units on Cleveland Street. The shadow study was run on the worst case scenario, so on the building when it was 15 stories in height. Now that the tower has been removed, it's expected that the impacts from the shadow will be even less. And the shadow study best practices is that the shadows move and do not stay on one property. So the shadows were kind of moving along the properties and not lingering. So yeah, the result of the shadow study was that if anything, some morning shadows were on some of the Cleveland residents, but they moved quickly away, and a lot of more of the shadowing was actually along the Ormond Street frontage.
Thank you. And so you didn't engage with any of the residents. This was just your company's doings.
Through the chair, we did have a public meeting with the residents in February of 2024. So we did host a neighborhood meeting. Invitations were sent to the residents, and there was attendees that came to the meeting to provide more information. And then as part of the statutory public meeting, the city sent notification to the residents of the surrounding area.
Thank you. And have you guys done any projects similar to this in scope or magnitude? And if you can share them with us, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, through the chair, I can speak with my client and ask him to consider sharing some of his similar projects.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Well, you already spoke, so is there anyone else that wants to speak? Councillor O'Hare, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ms. Edwards. Ms. Edwards, thank you for presenting today. I really appreciate that the tower has been removed. I think many councillors felt that that was a little bit tall for the site, so I'm glad to see that that has been altered or changed. I have a question about the renderings that you put up on the screen that we have on our computers. I do have to say I like the look of the brick in the lower half, and I do in fact support the step back for the, I believe it's 5 floors above the brick. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Yeah, so I think that visually works a lot better than it had in the past, so I really appreciate that. But my question is more specific regarding the rendering. Sometimes we see renderings and ideas, and in the end, we get a completely different look. How true are we to expect this building to look in regards to the renderings we're seeing today?
Through the chair, the architect that has prepared the renderings is the architect that's on the file. Given some of the really detailed site-specific regulations around the building placement, it is unlikely that through this amendment that the building would be able to move or shift. There could be some variation in materials as we move through. We can note that, council really does like the brick, as that kind of creates that human scale feel at the podium and really integrates the building into the neighborhood. So we can take note of that and make sure that as we move through site plan control, we consider that. So in terms of the massing of the building, it's unlikely that will change. If anything, it would just be small materiality adjustments as we go through site plan control. The site as it stands doesn't, with the easement and the configuration, doesn't offer us a lot of room for building changes or building movement.
Good. All right, thank you. And I notice on the north end of the building, there's that odd little pie-shaped piece of land. Do you have plans for that? I mean, it certainly is large enough to turn into some sort of parquet or something. Is that in the works?
Through the chair, at this time, it's going to be green space. In terms of ensuring that we can manage stormwater on site and ensure that we have enough landscaped area, that part contributes to the overall green space or landscaped open space on the site. It's possible in the future that they could investigate a parquet. However, it kind of runs along the neighboring site as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I hope you'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Or anyone else before I go back to Councillor Dedevitis? Go ahead, Councillor DeAngelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions regarding the commercial space that's anticipated being there. Looks from the diagrams, it looks like some sort of restaurant or cafe type scenario. Again, my question would be, is the size that's going to be allocated marketable to put a facility like that in there? Because you mentioned you're going to convert 2 units, and if it doesn't pan out, then you'll put 2 residential units back in there. But I'm just wondering, is it, from the get-go, is it going to be able to sustain some commercial space in there?
Through the chair, we believe it is. That was looked at by our client and our architect as part of the project. Our architect did confirm that it would be big enough and that it would allow some flexibility for commercial uses. We did work with staff on this in terms of the zoning amendment, and staff have agreed to provide a large range of uses so that we have some flexibility in terms of trying to attract a tenant and securing quality retail for that space.
Okay, that sort of answers my question, because it's the marketability. If it's not marketable for whatever business that's going in there, then it's not going to succeed. Regarding the parking, you mentioned that there'll be 5 assigned parking spots for the commercial property. Would that be sufficient? Has any study been done to see if that's sufficient to have a restaurant or a cafe, if 5 spots are enough for that, or if there have to be additional spots? And the 5, I would assume, are dedicated, and the follow-up question to that, would they be close to the close to the commercial component of the building?
Through the chair, so the 5 spaces would be in compliance with the requirement for the City of Thorold zoning bylaw. We are planning to mark those 5 spaces as the spaces that are closest to the retail. So there are surface parking that is just behind the retail, so that would allow for quick and easy access. It's possible due to the location of this development on a bike corridor as well as in proximity to the downtown and like located close to the residents that a lot of the traffic for these businesses could come by foot or bicycle. So that could allow some spaces. It's also possible that if we were to acquire tenants that required a lot more space, that we could look at converting some of the residential spaces to accommodate the commercial. So there is some flexibility there. We would just have to come back to the city for a minor variance to request that. But our analysis provides there's 305 total parking spaces provided as part of this development. So we feel that that should adequately serve those uses.
Okay, so thank you for that answer. So then that was part of my next question. With the 305 spots, you've allocated 5 for the commercial use. Will each unit, there's 241 units, will each unit have a dedicated spot for themselves, and which would leave about 59 spots that were either for, I call them visitors for lack of a better word, because it might be someone there doing mechanical work, someone might be there renovating different things, right?
Yeah, and through the chair, and that's one thing that we've benefited by reducing the number of units. So there is an actual increase in the number of parking spaces. So right now we have 1.2 parking spaces per unit, so the one provides 1 space per unit with 0.2 that can be applied to visitors, or it could be also applied to residents that may wish to purchase or lease a second space. So it does provide a lot more parking that's available to fewer residents. And we feel that this will result in, less demand for parking, as well as, more parking spaces that will be available. So with no changes made to the site, no changes made to the underground parking, and then fewer units, it does provide a parking rate that's really consistent with the zoning bylaw. We're asking for 1.2, and the zoning bylaw currently requires 1.25. 1 per unit's a consistent standard across a lot of Ontario, as well as some municipalities have 1.2. So it's very consistent with what other developments are proposing in urban settings. I know in Hamilton or parts of urban Kitchener, it can be less, down to 0.5. But we feel that 1.2 would be reasonable to support this development in Thorold.
Has there, if I could follow up through you, Mr. Mayor, with a question. I know the rest of Ontario, you mentioned some of the urban settings, they have less parking spaces. Their transit system's a lot more efficient than ours. Ours isn't as efficient to moving people around. So I'm always concerned with parking because, yes, the province tells us 1.2, 1.25, but go down a street where there's no parking and the street is clogged with vehicles. We have that throughout our community. Is there a contingency plan if where's someone to park if you meet the 305 spots? They're all filled. Half the people have 2 cars. Will you discourage them from having a second car in this facility? Because what happens with those people that don't have parking spots? This area does not have very much parking space around it unless you want to infringe on other commercial businesses or infringe on the local neighborhood that's there. And there's no street parking on Ormond Street. So, this isn't downtown Toronto. This is outside the downtown area of Thorold. And it's not as walkable as some might think in terms of getting to facilities. So you do need a vehicle. So is there any contingency if the demand is greater than the 305?
Through the chair, there is some contingencies built in. It's possible that we could, reduce the number of units and provide larger units, which would provide fewer units overall. It's possible that we could remove the commercial parking spaces if the commercial units did not require it or there was a conversion to residential use. It's possible that we could seek off-site parking with relation to other businesses if there was a need in terms of a long-term lease or purchase. Or it's possible to look at other portions of the site to open up more parking spaces if required. So there is options available to us, and I think that's something that the client can look at. But 1.2 is very consistent with a lot of suburban developments in a lot of municipalities in Ontario. So we anticipate that that will be a reasonable parking rate for this development.
Mr. D'Angelo, is there any further questions?
Yeah, I have one further one. Has there been a snow removal plan put in place for this, for the parking?
There is some snow storage on site, but if there's the requirement, the snow will be removed privately to ensure that all parking spaces are available throughout the winter.
So you will have a snow, I'll call it snow plan in case of excessive snow on the property?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, did you have another question, Councillor Didivides? Go ahead.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you again, Dana, for coming in, and I want to say this is a beautiful drawing. I'm glad you went down to the 10 stories. The commercial side has had one little thing. Thorold downtown is like historical. Is there any way you can like make the front a little historical to tie into our downtown? This with the facade, not the whole building, just a little bit, we can blend and work together with the downtown, because you're pretty close to downtown, and I think this is going to be a great impact for the BIA and all the businesses with this build. So I'm very excited to see this coming forward.
Through the chair, thank you for your comment. I think that's a great idea. As we move through site plan control and are going through the detailed design, that is a great suggestion. We can work with the downtown to, kind of tie in the design of the facade, perhaps signage, or any context-specific design with the downtown, so it's cohesive and unified.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to thank you, Dana, for your presentation, and thank you for coming to council. And now I'm going to put the report on the floor. DS 16-2025, 75 Ormond Street South, proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, D14-12-2023 and D09-4-2023. Can I get a mover and a seconder? I got Councillor Sentence and Councillor Decker. And to put the report on the floor, and our city's consultant, Nick Bogart, Associate, MHBC, is available online to answer questions, as is our interim Director of Development Services, Walter Basic. So there you have it. We got a mover and a seconder. Are there any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to, they're online. This would probably go to Walter. Walter, can you hear me?
We'll just wait to see if...
Yeah, I can, yes.
Okay,
Hopefully you can hear me.
Yeah,
yes, we can.
Walter, go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you. Hello, Walter. Just a question regarding the green space requirement for a building of this size. I don't have my bylaws in front of me, but I think it's somewhere in the 33-35% range of entire area. Is that correct?
I believe so.
So my question is, when I look at the site plan drawing of the footprint, there's very little green space there. And of course, one of the options is the green roof. So am I to understand that if they put in a green roof, then that qualifies for that required green landscaping?
No, the green space, I believe, is a requirement at the grade level.
Okay. So that might be something we need to look a little bit closer at to ensure that that is being met.
That would be at the site plan level.
Yep. Okay, I just wanted to point that out so for future reference. Okay, thank you, Walter.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to make a quick comment that'll follow up with a question. My comment is, we get a lot of these zoning bylaw amendments that come to council, and we end up either passing them or have the land tribunal pass it for us. And then these lots sit vacant for months and months and years. So my question to staff is, if we approve the zoning bylaw amendment and allowed us to go ahead, and we have a proponent saying that they hope to get shovel in the ground in 2 years, can we put a time limitation on this zoning bylaw amendment, let's say to 3 years, saying that if they don't get a shovel in the ground by then, that we can revoke the zoning bylaw amendment? Is that possible? That's my question to staff.
And I'll ask Walter if he wants to comment on that.
Yes, thank you. What you're referring to is a temporary use bylaw, which is intended for temporary uses. Once an official plan amendment is adopted, once a bylaw is passed, it runs with the land. We don't normally include time limits on zoning permissions, other than for temporary uses.
But my question is, in order to facilitate what the federal and provincial government wants, can we put a timeline on here? If we're gonna say we want more housing and we're gonna approve it, how do we make it get built?
I don't believe we have a mechanism other than financial incentives, which the provincial and federal governments are implementing. That really is it. The financial incentives that the upper levels of government are encouraging, are being used to encourage development to occur sooner than later.
I can tell you that on the brownfield incentives, especially at the regional level, there are time limits on it, and that they have to be enacted in a certain period of time, because some of those are there's changes coming at the regional level with incentives, so there's times. I can't tell you the exact what they are, Councillor Longo, but there are time limits on.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. Again, I'm just trying to figure out a way to get more housing built, because that's what everybody says we need. I hate approving zoning bylaw amendments so that somebody can put a property up for sale. I don't think that's the intention of what we're trying to do and what higher levels of government want. So I guess I'll leave it at a comment for now. I was trying to see if we could put something in here, some sort of wording to make this happen, but I guess we'll have to hope it happens.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to comment, Walter or Nick, on that? Or do you have any comments before I move on? Go ahead, Nick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to add that through the site plan process, there is also a time limit associated with the site plan approval. So there is some commitment when the applicant signs the site plan agreement to construct within a certain time period. And I believe it is 2 years to get a building permit, and then a year after that to substantially complete construction. So I don't know if that helps to address some of the councilor's concerns, but there is some timing associated with the site plan process.
So he says that is in the site plan process. Are you good with that answer, Councillor?
Yeah, I am, but I guess my question is not to nitpick here. So could a proponent just delay, once the zoning bylaw amendment is done, can they just delay site plan approval for years and years and years?
Who wants to?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor, site plan approval, again, like Mr. Bogart has indicated, there are time limits to site plan, and there are securities that are held by the municipality. So usually there's substantial amounts of money, and if the developer doesn't construct, or the longer it takes for the development to be constructed, the longer the municipality holds the securities. So that would be another incentive to construct sooner than later.
But the securities are only held when the site plan permit is given, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. Anyone else before I take the vote? Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to go back to regarding the commercial space, I'd like to get, is there a possible, through you, Mr. Mayor, to our planners, is there a possible way that we could get some guarantee or commitment that that area will not be converted to residential? My issue is, and again, I've been here long enough to know that developers come here, tell you one thing, and then it doesn't always pan out to what it's supposed to be or what they said it was going to be. I can give you many examples. So my concern is when you're building a building like this, and it's similar to the lofts here, that they went at, originally they just wanted to build residential, but you have to provide the amenities and provide commercial space if you're trying to get away from a drivable community. And one of my issues is parking. So if you start converting commercial to residential, then you're driving away, no pun intended, business further away, meaning that you have to get into a vehicle and go there. So is there any way that we can substantiate or make them commit to that, to the commercial component and be stuck with it? Because, you know, from a market standpoint, they can set a rate of rent very, very high, and nobody's going to go in there. So then they're going to say, well, it's been vacant for 5 years. I have to put it to residential, but they make no accommodation to try to get commercial in there. So my question again, to repeat, is there a way that we can sort of lock in that commercial space to make them commit to making sure that that happens, and that they really, really make the marketability of the property sustainable for a business to be in there? So if I could have that answer.
I think that's at the site plan level, but I'll ask Walter to comment on that.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. The best way to ensure it is to incorporate it into the zoning amendment with a minimum commercial floor space requirement, so that if there is at some point in the future a desire by the developer to convert that space into something else, then they have to come back to council for an amendment.
And that's part of this report. Am I correct, Nicholas? That commercial is, and the usage are part of the report. Am I correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's built in. So there's a requirement for a certain amount of commercial space. And yeah, as mentioned, if there was to be a change to that, the developer would need to come back to council and seek approval for that. So there's a check as part of that.
Okay.
It doesn't give me that warm, fuzzy feeling, because I've seen where they've gone in and changed it to residential and then come back later and say, well, you know, we have residential people living there, but if that's the best we could do at this stage, that's the best we can do, I guess. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, one. Okay. We'll move on now to items for consent. We have two items. 11.1 and 11.2, DF 17-2025 and DF 20-2025. Can I get a mover and a seconder for these? Then I'll ask if anyone, I got Councillor Decker and Councillor O'Hare. Does anyone want to pull one to speak on, or any comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Items for consideration. DF 19-2025, Brownfield Municipal Tax Incentive Program, 11 Front Street. Can I get a mover and a seconder? I got Councillor Sentence and Councillor DeRose. That's on the screen, and we have Maria's here to answer any questions. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Proposed zoning bylaw amendment, D14-9-2023, and draft plan of vacant land condominium, DO7-2-2023, Block 26, Barker Parkway, Barker Place. Can I get a mover and a seconder? I got Councillor DeRose and Councillor Dedevitis. The city consultant, Valerie Schmidt, GPS group, is available online if there's any questions, as is our interim director of development services, Walter Basic. We had a mover and a seconder. That's going up on the screen. One sec. Okay, there it is on the screen. Is there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. PWCS 5, 2025, Richmond Street at Tupper Drive, Rami Crescent intersection, traffic study and noise study. Can I get a mover and a seconder for this, please? Councillor Sentence and Councillor Dedivides. Jeff and Sean are here if there's any questions or comments from council. Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As I read the recommendations here, we're looking at $300,000 to do a four-way stop there with design modifications. Am I through you, Mr. Mayor? Is that what I'm?
Jeff or Sean, who wants to take that question?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's more than just putting the four-way stop up. Moving the curbs and rearranging the intersection is going to cost that.
Thank you for that answer. Then just sort of a follow-up, because I was looking at the plans that show some design work where they redesigned the road all the way up to Collier Road. Is that going to be revisited through public meetings, or is that what's being going to come forward? Because there's specifically a turning lane that's going to be implemented in between two lanes, and is that an item that's going to come forward, or is that something that's going to be discussed later?
Or is there going to be public meetings on that, or what? Go ahead, Sean.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we always have public meetings associated with our construction work, so it would certainly be something that came up in a public meeting.
Oh, okay. So the designs aren't complete then. That's what I'm hearing. Okay, excellent. And I know this is looking at referring it to our budget meeting, our budget for capital budget for 2026. It's very extensive, and there's a lot of work being done there. And I know the first call was just to put a four-way stop there. We seem to be putting more and more two-way, four-way stops throughout our community. This won't be going till next March before it's even discussed again. Is there any way at this point in time just to put a four-way stop to see if that will help mitigate some of the safety concerns that are there at this present time? Because there is excessive speed. There's people flying through there. So through you, Mr. Mayor, to our staff, is there a way that we can, at this point in time, before we spend the $300,000, look at an option of putting just a four-way stop with again, not just the stop signs, but putting some lines in there to make it a little safer right now, as opposed to looking at this 8 months, 10 months down the road, and then looking at another probably year before it gets redesigned. To maybe spend a little money now, see if we could solve the problem, than to wait a year and a half and spend $300,000 and it may not work. Is there any option to do something like that?
You have a comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, as part of the report, it identifies an interim plan. I think it's referred to as 3.1 and we could certainly implement that.
But isn't the recommendation to defer it to the capital budget next year?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it is, but we could do the interim step to start this thing and do as you said.
Okay, so, Mr. Mayor, I'd look to change the motion so that we do the interim plan to get the stop signs in there with some line markings to make it a safer, and then we have some time to see how it's working before we implement or look at implementing the full plan. Is that an option?
Do you want to comment on that, Sean?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that would be okay. We can certainly do that.
So you want to, I'll let the clerk get that straight, and then,
Sean, do you need mine?
see what we got. Just bear with us a minute.
Yeah, I'm just going to speak as he's doing that, because my rationale, if you go up the overpass on the other side, there's a four-way stop on the other side, and it's got multiple turning lanes. So if you put one on this side of it, at least people will become more familiar with it at this point in time, before you start restructuring the whole road, making it narrow, putting turning lanes in, and doing other different things, so that the residents that live in the area can
It's,
become more comfortable with that
intersection,
four-way
yeah.
stop.
It's-
Given the fact that more and more people are driving down there and going down Tupper to avoid
Okay.
Collier Road because of the speed camera,
Richmond,
that you're seeing
Tupper,
more and more traffic flow there.
Okay.
So, and given that there's usually, per the report, one accident a year there, if we could look at putting some safety measures in sooner or try to mitigate safety. Unfortunately, bad drivers are bad drivers. Doesn't matter what we do. If they're going to run a stop sign, they're going to run a stop sign. But let's try to educate those that are out there that we have these stop signs to help improve the safety of our community.
Okay,
Hopefully that gave you enough time to,
yeah, go ahead, Sean, before we get this on the floor so everybody can see it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was hoping that you would give us an opportunity to report back to you about the costs associated with taking that temporary step.
What's that? Go ahead, Sean, I missed that, sorry.
I would like the opportunity to report back on what the cost would be and the budget required to take the temporary step.
So can you have that ready for the next council meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so that'll be included, that'll be
I'm good
reported
with
back.
that. Yep.
Okay? And then Maria can find out where the money's coming from. We're just changing on the fly here, so bear with us here.
I could do some more talking, Mr. Mayor. if you
No,
want.
that's okay, you've done enough. Did you want to speak on it, Councillor Longo?
Well, I was just gonna say, Mr. Mayor, should we just refer this report back to staff till the next meeting?
Well, I think he wants to, that staff be directed to report back to council respecting the implementation of an interim four-way stop with traffic marking at the intersection. Is that correct? I didn't see it.
Yeah, that's, in essence, you have the stops, but then you have the white lines there to identify it.
And he's going to report back to council respecting information and costing. Just put "and costing," because that's what is coming to the next meeting. Okay? Okay.
Okay, so you have to do,
And we're gonna vote on that amendment first, okay? So I had a mover, Councillor D'Angelo, are you seconding that, Councillor DeRose? That motion is up there, is there any discussion on that amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment? That is carried.
okay. The minutes will reflect that, but now, essentially, the motion as amended.
Okay, so now we're gonna vote on the motion as amended, okay? Well, can we use the same mover and seconder? Are you good with that?
I'm good with that, but referring it to budget,
Well, we're doing the interim step that is coming next meeting, and then the rest of it is, we'll see. Okay? So we got a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, you got work to do for the next meeting, Sean. Okay. Emergency repairs, PWCS 21-2025, emergency repairs, storm chamber in the Hydro One building parking lot. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please, for this? I got Councillor Longo and Councillor Sentence. There it is up there. That was an emergency repair. That, is there anyone that has a question or anything regarding that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Park vandalism at McCannum Park, PWCS 32-2025. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Sentence and Councillor O'Hare. And that's up on the board, and Jeff and Mark are here. If there's questions, go ahead, Councillor Sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, this is a great report. We need this. I appreciate it. I went out and saw the facility one time when it was wrecked with Scott, and went back weeks later when they closed the place up. They went through the roof to do what they did and just tore everything apart. They had to crawl through a spot because the door was still locked. So And that's why I brought that motion earlier in the year about cameras and something we can do. We have to do something to protect this. We can't keep it open the way they're doing. I'm telling you, it was like a bomb went off in there. So thank you. And this is what we have to do in the meantime.
I appreciate that. Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I ask staff put up the pictures so people actually see what the damage is being done? This is atrocious and very disrespectful to our community. When you see, and I think the general public needs to see this, because there's got to be a call to action here to try to get the police there more regularly. I'm even thinking, I know we want a holistic approach, but maybe let's look at if we could try to pilot a project with that park, with maybe with some surveillance cameras, because all that money, like, we have a lot of needs in our community, especially recreation, where we're trying to improve it throughout our community, and we're redoing something in a building that gets just totally destroyed. It's not fair to our community. It's not fair to our residents for a few hooligans who want to do destructive, degenerate acts of
So
vandalism.
here you're seeing the pictures. He's scrolling through.
So I think we
Look at that. Sink's torn right off the wall.
Yeah, like I said, Mr. Mayor, we're closing the facility. Is there any way that we could get some surveillance, like maybe if staff can investigate this? I know it's getting later in the season here. There's time constraints, cost constraints, but I know a holistic approach would be great, but is there something maybe we could try to pilot to do anything to help improve this situation? Because the building's going to, if it's closed, it's still going to deteriorate. There's going to be more people doing more damage to it. And that's not something that our community should stand for. Like, that's, I think we need to work together to come up with a better solution to help McAdam Park, so people feel safe there and people feel like they're welcome and people have the amenities required when you go to a park.
Councillor Decker, did you want to make a comment? Then I'm going to go to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that was part of Councillor Sentence's ask, was to try to get security cameras out there. To try to prevent this from happening in the future. So I think we're trying to work at doing that type of approach.
So where are we with that? Are we looking, Mark, do you want to comment on that, please?
Thank you. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. We've investigated the cost of installing cameras at McAdam Park, and we're looking at about $9,000 for cameras alone. We've also started to investigate the cost of having security contractors visit the park, and that's where we looked at this as a much larger project, because to employ a security contract at one park just didn't seem feasible, and it will be a significant cost. Ballparking to have them on for about 7 months out of the year, which is when we figure the parks are most active, you're looking at about $120,000. And that's why we looked at this as a holistic approach.
So the NRPS has a surveillance, where they, yes. You can buy, I think you buy into it, or I don't know all the details, where you get a monitoring system and they actually have a monitoring company or whatever. I don't know all the details, but I know it's being utilized in some areas. I think downtown St. Catharines might be one of them. Might be just something to check into. I don't know the details, that whether it be something that might make sense for us. That's all. Go ahead, Councillor Thorold.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, can't we simplify it? I know all we need to do is put a couple cameras there. If there's damage, go back and watch the cameras. I don't think we need someone to get there. It's going to be too late by the time the damage is done. I'm just saying, $9,000, that's excessive, and I know someone in Thorold that does security, and there's no way he would charge a fraction of that. I'm just giving you an example. So we need to shop around and find someone more compatible with what taxpayers can afford. But I honestly think you can monitor that park much cheaper than getting in all these big projects. Just keep it simple. Monitor that park. That park seems to be the one that is getting the most vandalism. So let's address it. Put some couple cameras high up. Vandalism happens, you go to the camera. I don't think you need tech experts or be involved with the Niagara Regional Police at this point yet. Just my opinion, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Didavita.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mark, do we light up that park at night? Does the light stay up all night long? Like, is it nice and bright?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have lights in that park.
Yeah.
We've experienced issues with them being shot out.
Yeah.
And that's one of our concerns about cameras as well, is that we provide lighting, we provide cameras, and they'll likely be damaged.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of cameras because we had some vandalism. One of our properties, the police came, they smashed out all our windows, and they can identify them because it's almost impossible to identify somebody with a hoodie on or a hat on. So they kind of, any way we can promote that park so the public takes more pride into that park. So they feel like they got to more or less step up to the plate, keep an eye out, get more activities in that park, a sense of pride in that. So that's why I think Beaver Dams Park and other parks around the community, you don't see this because maybe we need to use that park more and get some life into that park.
Good point. Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I too, like all of us here, am disgusted by this vandalism. It's hard to understand how someone can do such destruction. And unfortunately, the ones that suffer the most are the community that use this park. So I'm wondering, is there another plan B that we can temporarily look at to provide a porta potty or some sort of means on site where they can use facilities should they require them? I mean, they're the ones that are going to suffer the most through these acts. Are just completely baseless. So I don't know if we can possibly look.
Mark can respond to that, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. We did consider the installation of a porta potty. We are obviously concerned porta potties are easily tipped over and vandalized as well. We have experienced that in the past. One of the reasons why we opted to put forth the recommendation that we have is because we haven't received complaints from the community, the surrounding community, about the loss of the use of the washroom facility. I think they recognize that we're dealing with an issue. But to go back to one of the previous points, we do anticipate through the plan is to approach the community and ask for their assistance. But anyhow, back to the washroom facility. We weren't intending on putting one in because I feel that would be vandalized as well.
Any further questions, Councillor?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just on a couple of points. I think it has to shut down, and I think a porta potty would be a bad idea right now. I understand what you're trying to do, but there is a holistic approach going towards this. Cameras have privacy issues. When we asked the police chief when he was here, it's not as simple as putting up a camera. You have to, and especially when it's pointed towards children, and there's a whole thing going on, and the community watch was a big thing that I think would be great. So we started a community watch like we used to have, and then the residents get involved, and if they see something, just catch one or two people. So I wouldn't open anything right now. The park is near and dear to me. I grew up out there, but what's happening, we need to step back and figure this out in a whole way. And I like the report that you have. Thank you.
And the report will come, yeah, and we'll deal with it as a long-term strategy. Okay, we had a mover and a seconder. Any further? Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo, and then.
I have a question. It's closed now, but what are we doing to mitigate any further damage to the building besides closing it? Is it fenced in?
Mark.
Is it?
Mark will answer that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. We do, obviously, we do conduct regular inspections. At present, the only damage that continues, it's been minimized, obviously, because the building is completely closed. The damage that you saw in the picture to the soffit and the fascia is the only damage that we've seen continue from this point forward. It's a very tricky situation because we can put fencing up, but the fencing will be torn down, and the soffit and fascia is obviously at a point where the fencing wouldn't prevent that. So at this point, we're in a mode of going to be going to the park to ensure that there aren't any safety issues for the people using the splash pad and the adjacent playground.
Just a follow-up question. Is there any items left in the building of value that might be destroyed that should be removed?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. At present, most of the remaining components have been damaged to a point of no use, and so some of the proposed costs that we'd put forward were to replace them with stainless steel amenities, stainless steel sinks, things that cannot be destroyed, ideally. But we're not concerned about what's in there now. It's in a irreparable state.
Okay, that answers my question.
Councillor Delegations, and then
Through you, Mr. Mark, I have another question. Do we have like a hotline or somebody can report or tell, like a reward system or something? Because a lot of people do want to, they talk and they're going to tell somebody, and somebody, a good citizen might hear it out there and go, hey, I'm going to report this in.
Crime
Or somebody
Stoppers.
might even, yeah, but on our webpage that they can go to, something they can connect to the city, not through Crime Stoppers or like a, or can we even ask like a reward? Like ask a business in the community, hey, I'll donate $250 gift certificate or whatever. So, and then they'll get something just to get the community involved in this.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. We hadn't considered the reward. I'm not sure that's something, we'll have to look into that. But I am glad you asked that question. Obviously, a number of meetings ago, we talked about the QR codes, which have been installed, and that's one of the ways that we're allowing or asking the public to be more involved. And so QR codes have been installed at McAdams Park, and the website has been updated to include a link. Once you scan that QR code, it will give you the option to report vandalism or repairs that are necessary at our parks. So through that, we're reaching out to the public to get their involvement.
That's great. I hope people watching this will, if they know something, they'll come forward, do the right thing, take pride in your city. You live in Thorold. There's so many great things happening here. Step up to plate. But you got to stop this kind of foolishness.
Do you want to speak? Go ahead, Councillor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, does bylaw have any jurisdiction in this? If bylaw's driving by and something's occurring, do they have the authority to deal with it in any way?
Whether they deal with it or they call the regional police right away, because depends on what the interaction is, you know.
Do bylaw have any?
I would guess that a lot of this is happening at night when we don't have bylaw, you know.
Okay, thank you.
But it's a good question, Councillor. Yeah. But if they are patrolling and see something, they can interact, or they know if they have to call police. They're trained to make the right decisions.
Yeah, just because if that's a hot spot, maybe even having more city workers that are working nights at the parks, right? They're opening the lights at the baseball and soccer field, just to make an appearance, just drive by, and that might help alleviate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. PWCS 33-2025, Assumption of Rolling Meadows Phase 4 subdivision. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor D'Angela and Councillor Sentence. That's on the screen. Is there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. PWCS 36-2025. New Mausoleum award a tender, project number 62CM 5001. Can I get a mover and a seconder to put the report on the floor? Councillor Delegations and Councillor Deck. That's up there, and Jeff's here to answer any questions. So the report's on the floor. Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, to the director, I'm really shocked that this thing is already 33% over original budget. Went from 3 million to now 4.3 roughly. Is there can I have an explanation of that, just for taxpayers to know? Thank you.
Through Mr. Mayor, yeah, we're shocked as well, Councillor. The money, the number that we've been using and carrying in budgets was developed a number of years ago. We carried it forward, but there are some things that were added to the scope of the project that made the total a lot higher. Things like widening the entrance road to accommodate emergency vehicles. That was a new standard that wasn't anticipated when the original numbers put together. Some additional road work to allow for the proper loading and unloading of, of the caskets and things like that. There was some additional investigations done with the septic systems. Yes, the number is much higher than what we had expected. And our fear is that if we keep on deferring this expenditure, that the cost will be, even higher. So that's the best explanation I can provide. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, when you say standard, the gates being widened, is this something we had to do, or like we had no choice?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, as part of this process, we follow a site plan process similar to other developments, and it was one of those items that were identified through our internal circulation as being required.
I just don't. I don't know which emergency vehicles won't be able to fit through the original entrance. Maybe Chief can help us. Chief Dixon can help us. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Through you, Mayor, the purpose of the widening of the road there is because if we were to have an incident at that location, it would require tanker shuttle accreditation. And when we do that, we have tanker trucks passing in the roadway all the time because there is no proper water facility there to be able to extinguish fires. So it was either run new water lines all the way through, was one of the options, I believe, Mark, if I'm correct, and then or do something with the driveway and make it more stable. So that was the better option.
Okay. Last question to Jeff. Is there any way to scale back this? Like to scale something back, just to get it back closer to the budget we initially, $3 million we initially budgeted for?
I suppose we did look at one of the options is to retender the work or to look at phasing the project. I can't guarantee that postponing the investment is going to make it cheaper. It might make it a little bit easier from affordability if you wanted to look at phasing it over a couple of years. But I can't see that without changing the design dramatically, which we've advertised, you got public feedback on. I don't know that there's any real cost savings by maybe removing some of the crypts or some of the columbaria and scaling it back. At the end of the day, I think this is the project that you want to build. If you want to build it in smaller chunks, that's fine. But I will caution that it may be more expensive if we start phasing them.
Okay, that's good advice. One other thing I just want to mention. I don't understand why we have to get designers for every single thing we do when the companies we hire to build it have a design, because they do it. There's only a handful of people that or companies that make mausoleums in Ontario. So I just going forward, this is my advice, to try to, we got to start finding savings in some ways we do business in the city, or property taxpayers are going to be overpriced out of their house because they just can't afford these escalations. And I'm just saying, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars for design, and all I'm saying is I think that design could have been involved or put forward by the company that won the tender. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor D'Angelo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to follow up with a couple of questions to staff. You mentioned an option was to run a new water line. I believe there's water in the cemetery, but probably not the volume that's needed for fire resources. So what would have been the cost to run a new line to bring that into the fire resources of the water supply to meet the needs?
I don't know that there was a detailed cost estimate done. I think it's an order of magnitude thing. There's adequate water supply for the purposes of irrigation and, handling a domestic supply at the administration building. but in order to provide fire flow, you'd have to replace a 2-inch line with something 6 or 8 inch in diameter. You'd have to make sure it's looped back so there's some redundancy. You'd have to make sure that the flow and the pressure there would meet the firefighting standards. So I'm sorry, I'm not.
No,
I don't have an accurate cost, but I can tell you it would be much more than the alternative which was selected.
Okay, because I'm just wondering if it was through water resources, could it not come through the water budget as part of the water budget as opposed to the municipal building and land reserves? Like, would it be coming from a different, because
I don't think there's any chance you can have that kind of pipe there, because we've already been through this with businesses in that area. And you know yourself that what that would entail. We're talking millions and millions of dollars here.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, Walker's Industries asked us to extend a water main up Old Thorold Stone Road a few years back, and we estimated that number at about $4.5 million.
And they were going to cover 4.45 of it?
Pardon?
Were they going to cover 4.45 of it?
Well, we tried to convince them of that. That didn't work.
Okay, let's.
So, just along that, I have a couple other questions, because it seems ironic we're building a mausoleum and now we need fire services. When we revamped the building that was there, we didn't do that. So if we don't build a mausoleum, do we still need to do the fire services component?
And the answer from our chief.
Through you, Mayor, yes. Through this process, it was realized that there was inadequate water there, actually, for the building that's actually there. And for tanker accreditation that we are doing now, which we don't even have the commercial certificate to do yet, which is in the next process when we renew our current residential, rural residential certification. It's going to be required to have to have that done already, so we're already not sufficient.
Okay, so this cost is embedded, it's coming forward no matter what, if the mausoleum is built or not, so. And then the other one is, it talks about some of the other costs, and there were building permit approval requirements. Just for my own clarity, so do we charge the municipality building permit fees to build our own buildings?
Go ahead, Sean.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we do. We're not allowed to waive the building bylaw says we're not allowed to waive building permit fees. We actually transfer the money.
That's interesting. And then the only other question I have here is, it says payback will come from a combination of sales of crypts and niches and then general levy. Any idea what the general levy impact will be with the, I guess it's the $893,037 that's going to have to be repaid beyond what's coming out of the municipal land and building reserve? Any idea if a staff member could give me an approximation?
Through Mr. Mayor, unfortunately at this point, we really don't know what the funding's going to be from the general levy. You know, over and above this, there's $200,000 in design fees that were slated to come from the sales that now can't come from the sale. So a lot of it will depend on the, you know, how quickly it sells out, you know, how, you know, the price escalation per year on the cost of the crypts and niches. But, you know, just based roughly, we will see that we are not going to be selling, based on preliminary numbers that Mr. Richardson has developed, that the sales will not cover all the costs. So a lot of it will depend on how we go forward and what happens with pricing and timing.
Okay, it's unfortunate we can't lock that down because now we're hitting ourselves at a budget increase next year right off the bat. But unfortunately, due to these circumstances, you know, it doesn't put us in a good position. But it's a building that we need, and so I'm going to be supporting this. Unfortunately, we have some costs here that we didn't really account for that are making it a little unbearable, but at the end of the day, we need to get that mausoleum built to provide services for our community. I'm just hoping that when we look at the fees for those crypts, that we have a Thorold price and a non-Thorold price. So those that are
We
paying
do.
taxes, well, I think we have to revisit that, looking at what some of these extra components that those coming outside our community are paying a greater share, because those that live in the community are paying the taxes along the way. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just listening here, it sounds like, you know, we need to put the road in no matter what. But there's a $900,000 increase in cost here. And my question goes back to the crypts and the niches. Can we not just set a higher price to offset this cost? Is that allowable? Because the people who want to use this obviously should have to pay for it, I would think.
Mark, you want to answer that, please?
Thank you. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. That's exactly the process that we're going through. Is now that we have this, the costing of this project, we're revising our fee schedule, which is why we delayed presenting it to council. So we'll be crunching those numbers again and coming back to council with those.
Okay, so my comment at this point would be, I'll support this, but I think we need to make sure those numbers pay for this. So if the cost, I did some quick math, needs to go up $400 to $500 on average for a crypt or niche, we need to do that. I don't think this should be, you know, a general levy increase. It's not something that everybody in the community will use. So the ones who want to pay for it should pay for it. And people may disagree with me, but that's the way I look at this, where the general levy will fund the road because that's a requirement, but the crypts and niches should be paid for by the end user. So.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor O'Hare.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to staff, and before I pose my question, though, I do want to say that I agree with Councillor Longo on this. This is a additional cost that we shouldn't just simply be adding on to the levy. After all, our goal in the cemetery master plan is to have a net zero cost to taxpayers. So to just turn around and say, well, someone's going to have to pay for this, we need to make sure we're doing it correctly. And at the same time, recently, this council was given a report regarding other services that can bring in revenue at the cemetery, and I'm speaking about scatter gardens and green burials, and there are people that do want to use these means and methods of burials. Let me remind council, it's another means to bring in revenue. So this is something that perhaps we should encourage staff to look at once again and
But we're talking about the mausoleum, so let's focus on the mausoleum,
but I just figured
please,
it's
and let's
tied
not-
in at
No,
the
it's
same
not.
time.
Let's talk
It
about
is.
the mausoleum, please.
It is tied in. Thank you.
Anyways, go ahead, Maria.
Through Mr. Mayor, just echoing Councillor Longo and some of the other councillors, when we built Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the mausoleums, there was no levy impact. It was fully covered by the sales of the crypts and niches.
Can I just ask a quick question before I move on? Can we not use any DCs towards this because it's a growth project for our cemetery?
Through Mr. Mayor, no, cemeteries are not eligible capital expenditures under the DC Act.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Go ahead, Councillor Thorold.
Sure, Mr. Mayor. I was going to say something, and Councillor D'Angelo beat me to it, and I just want to reiterate what he said. Thorold taxpayers have paid for that cemetery. Residents of Thorold. And the last time we had a fee schedule review, of course, it was someone from out of town making up these numbers, and they balanced it out almost so that the residents are paying almost as much as the people that don't live here. So I think we've got to get that disparity in place where if you want to be buried here, you're from another community, well, guess what? Then you have to pay more. And I think that's where my point is, as a taxpayer, not only talking as a councilor, I'm speaking for all taxpayers, that disparity needs to be larger. And because, as Councilor D'Angelo said, Thorold taxpayers are paying for that cemetery. And you're never going to get a net zero, any public service. I don't know of any public service that's net zero. And I give you an example, any sports facilities we sponsor or support. Okay, so, or fund. But anyway, thank you.
Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I absolutely agree with all of the comments, and that is, again, why we haven't returned the fee schedule to council. We are waiting to crunch those numbers, and we will ensure that the taxpayers are not impacted by this. And to your point, we have in the revised or the draft fee schedule, we have included a non-resident rate, and I believe it's 20 to 25% increase over top of a resident.
Thank you. Anyone else before we take the vote? Go ahead, Councillor Diddy.
Thank you, sir. One question, Mark. Our crypt and niches, what we charge, is it comparable to other municipalities? Are we at, like, what are we charging? Do we have a lot of headroom to grow there?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we do have a significant wiggle room, so our fees will be going up significantly for the cost of crypts and niches, and will be closer to the industry or to the local standards.
That's great. That'll help us out.
Okay, before we take the vote, I just want to make a comment, and that's that by the comments, what I'm hearing, and we'll see after the vote, I think council realized the importance of not putting these projects on the back burner because they end up costing more. We've proven that, and council stood up and supported the fire hall and the operations center. When we did our downtown, we did all these projects and we didn't kick them down the road, and it's come out to be a shining light because we saved the taxpayers major dollars by not kicking these projects down the road. Anyways, I had to make that comment because I've been proud of our council in making those tough decisions. Okay, so we had a mover and a seconder, correct?
And Councillor Decker.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, we're on to notices of motion, and Councillor Sentence, you're gonna bring a motion on Terry Fox Run next meeting, correct?
That's right.
And Councillor DeRose on the Port Robinson Bridge project?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. That's correct.
The Eco Park, correct?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I have motions, we took care of one motion already. Yeah, he'll deal with the clerk on that. Okay, I know the one you mean, that I told you bring it up as a notice.
Did you want to just mention it right now, briefly?
He's already mentioned it, but go ahead again. That was regarding the,
Veterans Crosswalk.
Your mic, Councillor.
Yeah, it was in regard to the, not, what are they called? Not hospice rooms, I forget what they're called.
I think I know what he's talking about.
you know, it was part of it.
Can I write it to you, Nicholas, and I'll?
We know what you mean, we'll
emails.
make sure, because you mentioned it earlier.
So just as,
We know.
make a point of it.
We'll
Thank you.
make sure it gets, okay, I got Councillor DeRose on the crosswalk to honor veterans, and, do you have a seconder for that? Councillor Sentence, okay? Go ahead, Councillor DeRose.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas communities across the country have implemented commemorative crosswalks to honor the service and sacrifice of military veterans, and whereas the creation of veterans-themed crosswalk would serve as a visible and lasting tribute to local veterans while also enhancing public awareness and civic pride. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the City of Thorold enacts the following: that the city staff be directed to prepare a report outlining potential locations, design options, and cost estimates for a commemorative crosswalk honoring veterans for council's consideration at a future meeting. And Mr. Mayor, I just want to say that where I originally saw this was at the Meridian Center in Fawn Hill, utilizing their services there. My daughter plays basketball there, and it just melted your heart when you saw it. It was just a wonderful thing. And I know we've discussed it among councilors in the past, and so I'm a big proponent of this, and I think it'd be a great, like Mike said, we got a great city, Councilor DeVitis, and this would just add more depth to it. Thank you.
I got Councillor Sentence, then Councillor Longo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I agree. I love this idea. We talked about it before, but they were the Legion and Corps were a little hesitant about the poppy and walking across the poppy and the fallen soldiers. So they have a new, that I sent to everybody, they have a new policy now, and a new design. So work with them, and I think we can get something done now because they have a new policy and design. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Longo, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to put a friendly amendment, so it's actually attached to what Councillor Senton said, that you work with the Legion and the Canadian Corps as part of this process, so it's embedded in there. And then also, not just the cost estimates for the crosswalk, but also a cost maintenance of the crosswalk, because it's great to put it in, but if you don't take care of it, it'll happen like our Canadian flags, or there's other examples of stuff deteriorating just because no effort's been put into maintenance.
We'll get that included, and that's your motion, Councillor. You take that as a friendly amendment?
Correct, yes, I will.
Okay. Councillor Longo, go ahead.
My point was covered by both the previous councillors.
Okay. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, I think this is an excellent motion by Mr. DeRose. Any time we can remind people of the sacrifices soldiers for our freedom is great, and it's good Canadian pride to have this. And I think this is fantastic, and I love the maintenance, because when you do something like this, it always has to be perfect and maintained for the dignity of all our fallen soldiers.
Okay, so I'll just wait now, and he'll put it up, and if everybody's happy, we'll vote on it. Go ahead, Councillor.
Listen to everybody's comments. I think one of the reasons why it stands out at the Meridian Center is because it's a parking lot kind. So you don't get speeders. They're not going to burn rubber on it. It's more of a respectful. If you put it on a stretch of road where there's going to be cars moving fast, just for staff to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Got it?
Yeah. It's a friendly amendment, but I bolded and italicized it just to show what was.
It's a friendly amendment, but our city clerk, Nicholas, has made it in bold so everybody knows. So cost estimates for installation and maintenance, which was raised, and that staff work with the veterans groups in preparing the report. The veterans groups obviously are the Legion and the Corps, okay? So there it is. We have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Councillor Sentence, you're up. And that is a motion respecting installation of a three-way stop at Park Lane and Richmond Street. Do you have a seconder for that, Councillor DeRose? Go ahead.
Thank you. Whereas the intersection of Park Lane and Richmond Street currently functions as a one-way stop with a thoroughway on Richmond Street, creating potential safety concerns due to limited traffic control for vehicles approaching from multiple directions. And whereas the intersection is located within a designated school safety zone, where increased pedestrian activity, particularly by children, warrants enhanced traffic calming measures to ensure public safety. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council for the Corporation of the City and Thorold enacts the following. That city staff be directed to review the feasibility of installing a three-way stop at Park Lane and Richmond Street, including considerations for traffic safety, compliance with applicable regulations, and report back to Council at the August 12, 2025 meeting with findings and an estimation of installation time frame and costs. Can I speak to this?
Yes, you can.
The reason I'm bringing this up is Councillor O'Hare and I were approached by a resident, and I've been approached by other residents, that when they come over the overpass towards downtown, cars are trying to rush to get through, and when they're turning right, they're speeding through there. So we have a crossing guard there now, but that is only at certain times of day. And I can tell you, I live near that area, and it does get very, very scary at times where people are flying through there. And I know we're doing another traffic study. I understand we're having all this. And the reason I asked for August 12th, if possible, is because I'd like to see something in place, even as a trial for a year, as Jeff and I spoke about, to see how it works, is for the school season. So that's why I put that date in there, not to press you guys, but just to get something for the school year. Thank you.
Appreciate that. And go ahead, Councillor Decker.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Did you consider possibly how they have on Pine Street by the other public school there? They have that crosswalk with the flashing lights So when kids are, you know which one I'm talking about, Sean? Have we considered something like that as an alternative to the three-way stop? I'm just, because it does work. I mean, when it flashes, you stop and the kids walk across, or, you know, pedestrians walk across. Is that an option as well? At that spot, I'm just asking as another option to look at as well.
From my point,
That's up to staff when they come back.
from my point of view, I would say the stop signs are a better means of doing it. I've seen people go through those flashing lights and not always slow down. I think they need to be stopped there, and then that is the safest thing for, because now we have the camera up on Collier, and those stanchions work amazingly, by the way, because people think they can't get through. We have that up on that end, and it's really slowed things down. I think we need something that stops it there, and that will help the crossing guard as well, because these had close calls as well. So I would say I'm open to anything, but I really see it as a three-way stop. But again, I leave it to staff to come up with what they think.
Okay, Councilor DeAngelo, you had your hand up?
Yeah, just a couple of issues. One is because Councilor Decker brought up a suggestion. I think I'm in support of moving forward with this, but I think we have to take a greater look at the two school zones that are down Collier Road and Richmond Street, because there's a mishmash of stuff going on there. Some have flashing lights, some don't, some have a camera. I think more of a comprehensive plan of what's going on in that area, so that you're not confusing drivers. They're going 50 and all of a sudden they got to go 40. So I think more of a comprehensive look at that, because there's a lot of stuff, and we're asking for a lot of stop signs. We just asked for one at the intersection of Tupper and Richmond.
So I've asked for the transportation to come. They're going to come to a council meeting, but just so everybody's aware, there's no more flashing lights on Collier Road. Collier Road is now 40 all the time, okay? And so if you look at the signs, that's 40 from the interchange in the highway all the way down to Burley, past the school down to Burley Hill. And that's why they took the flashing lights on, because they got a camera, and because there's no warning for 40 anymore, it's 40 all the time. But that takes communication and knowledge. But we're hoping to get Frank here from the Director of Transportation, because he can explain the strategy on regional roads. But that's the strategy, just so you're aware.
Yes, I know, but it needs to be working with the strategy of the city on the city roads, so that we're working in congruency. That's not happening. It wasn't well communicated, and it's been put out there. But there's some additional stop signs that are being requested. So my secondary question is, and I'm just looking for process here, we have the Road and Safety Committee. That's where I was bringing my stop sign request, because I get asked numerous times, and that's where I was filtering it through. But is the new process then to bring it to council directly and to not go to the Road and Safety Committee? I'm looking for direction, because if not, then I'll have a couple notice of motions coming up then. Like, we have a committee, and again, I understand what Councilor Sentence was doing here, but we got to try to utilize our committees too, with their expertise and that they bring, and the time and effort that they put into it. Because if we keep coming to council with the road and safety issues, then that committee's, I don't know the value of the committee. Thank you.
So I'll let the clerk make a comment, because there is some times where the committee's a good avenue to use, but sometimes if there's time constraints, then we may want to bring it through council. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Exactly. I do see what Councilor DeAngelo is saying. We do have a road safety committee for a reason, to help advise council. Ideally, that's where it goes through, but obviously timing is sometimes a consideration.
Thank you.
Just to follow up, my only concern also regarding that is, now that this stop sign gets put forward, there's other stop signs that are not being done right now. So I just want to make sure they don't fall by the wayside, because one all of a sudden jumps the other one. So maybe when the report comes back, if we can have an appendix to the report that comes back to see what other stop signs are still outstanding and what the status is on those, because it would be beneficial that we're all on the same page on this, especially from the traffic safety. So if we can have that update included with this motion.
So staff direction, you want to know the status of the outstanding other issues?
The outstanding other stop signs that have been requested.
Well, that is staff direction, and they'll bring that back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we got the motion. We had a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Before we go to bylaws, we have one other thing. That's statement by Councillor Sentence regarding Canada Weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be quick here. I just wanted to, through you, to thank the people who deserve the credit for the Canada Day, because it was amazing. So I'm just going to run through the names. If I miss anybody, I apologize. I don't do many statements by councillor, but it was a really good event, so I just wanted to say this. So Councillor Decker, Councillor O'Hare, Councillor Didavitis, Tessa and Carrie, Jacob, Natalie, Brooke, Dave, Steve, Corey, Fire Services, the security team, the TAAA, Danny and Bylaw, and of course the hourly employees who kept the park clean and safe for us the whole time. There wasn't a garbage bag that overflowed when I was there. They were on top of it the whole time. Great job. If I missed anybody, the fireworks were incredible. And the only problem I can see with your committee is how you're going to do better the next year. So good luck. More fireworks maybe, but
Aim the bar higher.
And the bar, there you go. But credit where credit's due. You guys smashed it out of the park. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to move on to bylaws. Can I get a mover and a seconder for Bills 64, 2025 through 69, 2025? Councillor DeRose and Councillor O'Hare.
Don't we have to approve in-camera minutes?
There are none. We did the in-camera minutes. In the minutes, we didn't have to go in because they were approved in open session. Okay? Okay, can I get a mover? Did I get a mover and a seconder in there?
Councillors DeRose and O'Hare.
Okay, Councillor DeRose and O'Hare. That's again Bill 64, 2025 through 69, 2025. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. There being no further business, this meeting is hereby adjourned at 8:46 p.m. I need to talk to